time has come for me to talk about my August book roundup reading for August. This month I read 5 books, which I think is the most I've read in a month. I didn't ever really keep tab until recently, so I was really happy with it. This was also my first month proper tabbing. I kind of started it at the end of July, but we're still struggling to sort of get it. So I feel like I'm getting there now with this sort of tabbing, kind of. To be honest, I'm not really sure. I'll get into it. So as you can probably see, I've got 4 paperback and I read 1 book on my Kindle, which is also a goal of this month, was to try and read more of my Kindle. So I've read 1 book, I'm gonna go with it. I'm taking those wins wherever I can. So without further ado, let's look at my August reading list. First up, we're starting strong. Daisy Jones and the Six. And guys, that's a lot of tabs, okay? I loved this book. So this was the last Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I had to read. Like that I have, if that makes sense. So I read Maybe in Another Life and One True Loves, and then I was finishing with Daisy Jones and the Six. Although I sort of knew what to expect, I also was really quite surprised with this book because I did sort of know the premise of what it is, but at the same time I expected something different. Not to say it was bad, but I did just expect like something a little bit different to what it was. But I actually rated this so high. I think it is such a well done book in the fact that it's like an interview style, because I wasn't sure with the TV show really what it would be like to read, but I was pleasantly surprised. There were a lot of points in this book I felt sort of like anger to the characters, which is when you know it's a good book, it's well written, great narrative, is when you feel so much sort of like resentment. And everyone's like, I feel like people think loving a character means the character's good, but see, when you hate a character, like when you detest a character and all that they stand for, everything that they are as a person, that means the author has done a good job, in my opinion. Reading Daisy Jones and the Six has made me really want to read the other Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think it's Malibu Rising and Carrie Soto's Back, because I really like the writing style of Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I like how they aren't ever that similar. They're always just so well done. Like there's always something as well, like a plot twist, and I eat it up every time. I don't know how I never expect it either. You know, this is the 4th, including Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is the 4th Taylor Jenkins Reid book I have read, and I did not expect plot twist. It just wasn't on my radar. Tell me why it wasn't. Every book has one. Girl, get it. This is such a side note, but I'm home alone and it's just getting like, it's still light out, but I don't want to put the light on. But it's getting darker and I'm terrified that the mouse is going to come out. There's a wee mouse in the flat, it runs around. It only comes out every now and again, but for whatever reason it only seems to come out when it's me, alone. And Callum's just left for work and I'm terrified the mouse is going to come out because it's getting dark and I'm sat on the floor. But I'd probably rate this 5-star. And it's difficult because like looking back on it now, I'm like, was it 5-star? But I honestly, like when I was reading it, I was like, this is definitely a 5-star read. And it's sort of that reflection, because I've read other books since, it is making me like question it. But to me, Daisy Jones and the Six is 5-star. I don't think it is Taylor Jenkins Reid's best. It's so hard because they're all so good, but in like so many different ways. So I feel like no matter what I say, I end up like playing devil's advocate with my own opinion. So take my word for it, 10 out of 10. You've got to read it. It is very good. I've still yet to watch the show on Prime, but I'm very happy that I finally got round to reading the book, and I do honestly get the hype behind it. Another thing as well is my tabbing, and it's so messy. I've said before, there's not really any rhyme or reason to my tabbing. It's whatever. But it also just looks like, why are they so long? Like, why did I not think to move them further in? I don't know. I think I'm going to cut them. And some of them are squint because I do them on the bus and I try and do it like discreetly so no one can see me because I don't want to feel judged. One of my August goals was to tab better and get like a bit of an understanding on tabbing. Don't know if I can actually say I've done that because, like I said, no rhyme or reason. I just tabbed anything. And when I go back to look why I tabbed, I have no memory of the tabbing. Like I'm like, why did I tab that? Why did I think that was tab worthy? I still don't know. So I just don't think there's any examples I can give you that have a reason. I found one that I quite like. You know when she had me, when I knew that song was fucking great, when she said, "When you think of me, I hope it ruins rock and roll." I loved that. Just like, I don't even know how to explain why I loved it, but there's just something about that. Like, when you think of me, I hope it ruins rock and roll. Like, yes, that is, put it down, give me my money. I love that. I love that so much. It was really quite dark in here because the TV is no longer playing itself in a slideshow. Do I think it's Taylor Jenkins Reid best book? Probably not. Will I always recommend it? 100% yes. What for me made the experience better was when I listened to Fleetwood Mac in my noise cancelling headphones. It just was a great feeling. I honestly felt like I was part of it and I felt like it belonged. I know that Stevie Nicks has actually spoken on social media about Daisy Jones and the Six, which I loved. I thought it was so cute. But I did envision sort of that, the drama there, like a lot of the time I did envision like Stevie Nicks, you know that video and she's on stage and she's, "No, you'll never get away from the sound of the woman who loves you." That, when she was like proper singing that to, I've blanked on his name. That's so bad. That's what I imagined Daisy and Billy to be like, was that animosity, that sort of anger and like just sheer hatred. But like, you know what they say, fine line between love and hate. But yeah, honestly, I would recommend this. It definitely is a 5-star. And it's so, like I said, I'm just going to contradict myself because it's probably been one of my favourite reads so far this year. But again, is it her best? Probably not. I had to pop the light on. It kind of ruins like the lighting and it changes it, which is going to bug me. But it was getting too dark. I didn't like it. Okay. So the next book I read in August was The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. I've got to be honest, I didn't love it. And I feel so terrible saying it because I was so excited for this book and I feel like sort of the premise behind it, like the story behind it is so good, but there was just something I didn't like about it. So the main character, what's her name again? Tallulah. I'm 25, she's older than me, or she's ages with me, and the way she comes across, I just thought it was like, because he's older as well, like he's in his 30s, mid 30s, I think he's 35, and she's 27, I think, yeah. But I just didn't like it. Like, she acted like a teenage girl. She probably acted like a 15-year-old. Like, some of the, like, when you seen like the texts, I was like, I just didn't like her text. I thought it seemed really immature. But then I think like she's meant to have sort of a naivety about her, but I feel like it wasn't even shown as naivety. Like, I feel like we skipped naivety. We went to like child. I just didn't like it. And I hate to say it's something that I've noticed in other Tessa Bailey books, is that her female main characters always seem so immature and so young, and I don't like it. Because there's always like an age difference, and I just think it's never like super severe, but I just think it's weird. Like, I understand wanting like the male character to be protective and loving and want to like take care of his partner and be like, make sure like she feels safe around him. 100%, I get that, like that's fun to read, but not to the point that the female main character is coming across like a child and the main character, like a male main character, is like a full-on grown man. It's just bordering creepy. I don't know. That being said, there's some parts of this book that I loved, and I don't know, it's so annoying because when I read the blurb I was like, I need to read it, and like the blurb does make sense. I just felt as well like there wasn't much for like how thick it is. I felt like there wasn't a lot of like build. Like I felt like the characters didn't really develop much. I don't know. It kind of jumped a bit, and then at the beginning I feel like everything just seemed so rushed. Like I don't know. It wasn't my favourite. Like 3 stars, and I feel like it's kind of been generous because I did sort of like want to just finish reading it because I wasn't really loving it, which I'm really gutted to say because I was like anticipating the book coming out so much, and it just hasn't really lived up to the hype that I had in my head for it. I think there will be a lot of people that do love it, and there were aspects of the book that I thought were great. There were some bits that were really cute and sweet. Like I've tried tabbing it, but I just kind of did struggle with the tabbing so much because there were so many bits that I just wasn't really... Like I don't really know why I've tabbed these bits. If I'm being honest, looking at them, I am kind of struggling to find the reason behind it. What does it say? Oh, see, this bit's cute. Time with you could never be a waste, only a privilege. So there are like really sweet little lines in it, but I just feel like it could have been done. So like another one, like, it's not a home without you. Like I love that. Like it's so, there's some parts that are just so loving and so sweet, and like you're happy when you read it, but overall like I was a little bit disappointed with the book. I feel like such a terrible person saying that. I'm so sorry, Tess Bailey, because I do really like your work. I just don't think I like it as much as I always think I end up like remember thinking I like it, if that makes sense. I think I remember liking things more in hindsight than what I did when I actually read it. I feel terrible saying that. I'd say give it a go, give it a read, but don't expect like character development. Don't expect build. Don't expect like it's not Taylor Jenkins Reid type book. Like it's not, like it's just a fun little book. There's a bit thick. I think that's why I was disappointed, is I don't know, I expected more. Because I read It Happened with One Summer, and it's probably like the similar thickness to that, and there was so much storytelling. I felt like this was a bit repetitive. This is such a cute wee cover though. I'm so disappointed I didn't love it more. I really am. I've got to move on because I'm sort of bumming myself out with it. So the third book of this month was actually a reread. I read it the first time a couple of years ago, 2 years ago possibly, and it is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. Now I did read this and Spanish Love Deception roughly around the same time, so I was getting the both of them a little bit confused in my memory, but this, yeah, I remember this correctly. I loved this book so much. This book is fun little rom-com in book form. This is like, what is it, Anyone But You? That new film with Sydney Sweeney and I can't remember his name. The guy in Twister, him. That is this. What cat? Oh, I nearly had it there. It'll come to me. But that is literally this book. It is so good. It's like enemies to lovers, within like not super enemy, like, you know, You know what I mean? It's like, the only thing that is a bit disappointing is like the third act breakup. And they're so sad. I try and rush through so that I can get to like the better bit. But honest to God, like, it is such a good bit and it's fun. And I think like a worry when it's like two authors writing the same book, it's always the worry that you're going to notice the difference between the authors, like when it switches. I personally don't notice that. I would like to think that I would notice it as well if it was apparent, given the fact I studied English. I would like to think I could notice that difference. I love that the main character just seems so out of luck, like she just seems so regular. And that's so, not in a mean way, but she just seems so regular. She's so plain, almost, if you will, but she's not. Like, it just, like, she doesn't think that, but I think she subconsciously thinks she's that, and that comes across. So when things start seeming good, like, it seems great. And I just loved following like her story and like sort of seeing how she interacts and how she grows and things. I loved this book. And I think as well, although it's fun, it's not all fun. Like, it's not like super serious, but they add things in it that like adds drama. So there's the pot of it. So then you've got that, but then you've got the rom-com. It's just so good. It gives everything. This is 10 out of 10 again and again and again. Most of the tabs I have in this book, you need the context behind it, so I can't really say it because I don't want to obviously ruin it. But one of them is I'm thinking, think out loud with me. I loved that. The simplicity of like needing that sort of connection and like communication, like for, especially because it's him that says like think out loud with me. And it, you know, no hate to guys, but traditionally guys don't really push for the like communication. I think it's very important as well. And again, like context, like I don't want to spoil anything, but in this context, it's so important that he's saying that. Like, it's, please just read it because it's so good. It's such a summer read as well. So I know we're coming into like autumn, so it might not be one that anyone wants to read just now. But if it gets to winter and someone needs a summer read, they need to feel as if they're going into summer, please read The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren because it's just so well written. I love that it's constantly like building. Like, yeah, it is constantly building, but there's always something going on. Everything is there for a reason. It doesn't ever feel like pointless reading, and you're always entertained, and I love that because sometimes I think there can be books that don't have the right balance, so sometimes things can skip too much or they can't have enough information, whereas I think this is just like the perfect amount. Like, it just hits the nail on the head. It's so well done. It is still like a little fun read. It's not something that's going to like completely change your world, if that makes sense. It is just an enjoyable book, but life's too short to be reading things you don't want to read. It's too short to read things that don't make you love, love, love. So that is what my recommendations are for. The fourth book I read this month is also a reread. This one's a little bit shorter. It's also by Tessa Bailey and it is My Killer Vacation. I adored this book. The first time I went round, I think I read it in one sitting. It is quite short, to be honest, but I loved it. I did love it again this time, although, and I don't know if it's because I just read The Au Pair Affair, there were a few things I noticed that sort of iced me out a little bit compared to last time. But overall, 4.5 stars. I like how this book is not just like romance or in comedy, like it's rom-com, but it's also sort of cozy crime. So it has that aspect of crime. It is cozy crime and it's like true crime podcast type stuff, but that mixed in with like the romance. I think for such a short story as well, there is quite a bit of plot. I think you don't see much character development. I think in terms of characters it can seem a little bit rushed, but the plot and the narrative build is so good, especially for it being a shorter book. I think it's just shy of 300 pages. Yeah, 290 pages. So I personally, for 290 pages, how much Tessa Bailey got in this narrative wise is insane to me. I think if you're wanting to have a like fun little read that you don't have to think too much about, but you want to sort of enjoy yourself and you don't want it to be too run of the mill, I would recommend My Killer Vacation. It's very summery. It's in like a beach town in America, I'm sure. I can't remember what one, like Cape Cod, Maine, I don't know. And it's obviously a little bit of rom-com, and I think he is a bounty hunter and she's like a teacher, and it's so fun. It's such a cute read. It's like true crime, so it's summer, cozy crime, rom-com. I just feel like that ticks all the boxes. It is quite fast-paced as well, so there wasn't really any points that I felt like I needed to rush read. I felt like I actually took everything in equal amounts, and I did really enjoy it. When I was reading it, I didn't really want to put it down either. So to me, that's like a sign of a really good book. Again, it's not really one that you're going to read for like to get in your feels or help you quench an existential crisis. It's not like a little life or something. It is just a fun book. But I like that. I like books I can sort of read and feel like I don't really need to think about anything else. Like it just takes my mind off things. Not even takes me to another place, but just something that I can enjoy and feel like lighthearted, like especially after work or like when I'm going into work. I don't want to have to like read anything daunting or sad or anything like that, and I feel like this just hits the spot for that. There's nothing severe really in this book. I don't know, it's just a really good book. It's like a fun little book. So I'd probably give it 4 stars. I don't think it's like gonna change your life or anything, but it is fun to read. And the last book I read this month was on my Kindle, and that was one of my goals as well for this month, was to read on my Kindle more. I've only done it once. The issue I'm having is that my Kindle is quite old. It was my gran's Kindle. My cousin got it for my gran so my gran could play solitaire. And I ended up inheriting the Kindle, if you will. So it's just like a run-of-the-mill one. I think it's Amazon Fire Kindle, something like that, right? It's quite a few years old. I do love it, and I loved it more before starting this job. My job now, I'm behind a computer screen all day, and then when I come home, you know, Callum and I usually watch TV or we sit on our phones or something, and that's just, I feel like in life, like now, in this day and age, that is sort of what you do. So for me, because this Kindle is like a tablet-y Kindle, the screen of it and the lighting of it is kind of just like being sat behind my computer screen again. And although it's good, I would prefer the Paperwhite version because it's like a actual book. Oh, it's like paper almost, like they try and make it seem like paper. So I would prefer that, just because it means that I'm not staring at like, although I'm going to be staring at a screen, it doesn't look like a screen. I know that sounds really stupid, but I do think it would make a world of difference. So maybe Santa will be really nice and bring me a Paperwhite Kindle, or maybe I'll just save and get myself one, but I'll have to wait. It might be a Christmas present to myself in February, after Christmas, because obviously at Christmas you're spending lots of money on presents. So we'll maybe wait until next year and I'll get it. I'll just see. I'll see. But it was my goal to try and read the Kindle more, especially because I'm paying for Kindle Unlimited. It seems silly not to be using it. So I'm saying use Kindle Unlimited, I ended up actually buying this book, but I'm pretty sure I got an offer, so a little bonus there. But it was just for the summer. You can't really see it again because of the lighting, and that's by Abby Jimenez, I believe. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I love this book. I finished this book last night. I came home and I was like, I need to finish it because I loved it. And I felt this was the quickest I have read a book in a long time. And I do think there's quite a bit of, 424 pages, 411 we'll say, because of, the pages you read. So there's about 411 pages in it. And I started that on Monday and I finished it Thursday night. And I usually only read on the bus to and from work. And I did manage to read on my lunch break because my Kindle's kind of easy so I can eat and read. So I was really impressed with how quick I was able to read this book. I loved it. From start to finish, there was no point. There was one point that I felt the narrative didn't belong in the book. There was just, I think it was like 2 or 3 sentences, and it happened twice. Once it was 2 sentences, and I think the other time it was 1 sentence, and I felt like they seemed really out of place in the book. They seemed quite immature compared to the rest of the writing. I don't know how to explain it without giving it away, but there was like 3 sentences total in the book that to me seemed very Wattpad, just with how they were worded and what they said. But other than that, like, the book was insane. I know that Abby, she has a few books. I only found this out like probably the day before I finished, just for the summer. So I think it is something I might look at as some of her other work, because I did really enjoy it. I really enjoyed her writing style. I felt really engaged the full time, which is always a win. I think that's really important. Sometimes I feel like as well, like, I know that I keep talking about it, but say when you work, sometimes it is hard to engage in something. So to be able to pick up and put down a book and constantly have that engagement when you are reading it, I think that's insane. I think props to any author who can keep a reader that engaged throughout the day. This book does talk about some serious issues. I don't want to say too much, obviously, in case I spoil it, but there are some things in this book that they explore more serious themes and darker themes, and it does mention it. I'm trying to find it because it does speak about that at the beginning, just before it starts. While all my books are rom-coms, some themes in this story may be triggering for some readers. If you feel trigger warnings or spoilers and you don't need them, please skip to the next paragraph. Please skip the next paragraph and jump straight to the book. Oh, in fact, it does actually mention some of the things. So it does. In fact, I don't want to do it in case it does spoil it. I'll leave it. Okay. But it does explore, and it's mental health things. It discusses mental health things. And it's not done, excuse me, because this is going to sound like really out of touch. It doesn't do it in a tacky way. And I don't mean that to be rude or derogatory in any way, but I feel like a lot of the time when people try and talk about mental health issues, and I'm really sorry, Tess Bailey, because I love your work. She tries doing it sometimes, and I don't think it is captured right. It seems really immature, and it doesn't seem. It seems like something a kid would say, whereas I think everything Abby said seemed so raw. It was so raw, but so real, and it didn't, for me personally, it wasn't hard to read. I'm sure there's people that it will be, like, it might be hard for them to read. I didn't find it hard, and I felt like it was dealt with in a very elegant way where people could relate to it. Like, there was bits in the book that I could personally relate to, and I don't want to say too much in case it does spoil like the narrative or anything like that, but there is the main character, sometimes like how she acts, I was like, wow, like, I understand what that is, and it helped me sort of probably engage with the characters more, because you could sort of understand, well, me personally, I could understand how she felt at certain times, but I think Abby as well done such a good job of explaining and sort of not even explaining, like, I personally think she showed emotion through the actions and the words of the character, which is better than just writing it. She showed that through other things. Like, she didn't say, like, this is how it was. It was shown, and I loved that. I thought it was dealt in a really elegant way, dealt with, sorry, in a really elegant way. It wasn't overbearing, although the book sort of does revolve around it. I feel like it's one that you need to read to be able to know what I mean. But I would recommend this book. Obviously not if it's something that you think is going to upset you or trigger you. I don't think it would be a good idea to read it. I'm sure there's plenty of other books that she has that are amazing. But for me, it's made me really want to read some more of her work. I thought it was a great book. I didn't ever want to put it down, and it was the fastest I read a book in a really long time. So for me, that is really good signs. It's signs that I want to read more by that author and that I really like that narrative style. I think as well, the characters, I think the main character's friend, from the eyes that you see the story like play out of, you sort of, your opinions on the friend sort of differ. Like, at some point you like her and some points you're sort of like, you're a bit mean. And again, like I said earlier, I think that's a sign of a good author, is to be able to evoke like a sort of like, sorry guys, I thought I saw a mouse, but I didn't. But to sort of evoke like, not hatred in this case. Some cases, yeah, if someone can make you hate a character, great. But in this one, like, for you to understand every part of what that character feels like, when she's right and when she's wrong as well, and you understand both points, I think that's great, especially for a side character. Like, it's not even the main character, it's a side character. For you to have like a connection with not the main character, I think it's pretty good. Pretty good. I didn't really have any expectations for reading just for the summer. I had no idea what it was about. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It is rom-com, obviously it explores darker themes, but I thought it was such a good concept. The sort of romance and how, like, it's like they're trying to see if them dating is going to help both of them break like a curse. It's just such an unusual concept, and I thought it was really well done. I was really interested from like first page, not even the first page, like the first sentence. I was like, posted by Justin267, am I the asshole for naming my ugly dog after my ex-best friend? Like, instantly want to keep on reading. I think as well, in this day and age, and I've talked about this before, what book was that about? Did I talk about it, or was it in my dissertation? But I think authors now sort of need to see like the world that we live in, and how social media and like text, technology, all that, how that plays such a big part in our lives. They can only benefit from that. And I think by including the Reddit, it allows some people to want to read more, I think, because it's something that they can relate to, it's something that they know. Whereas I think until recently there was a lot of sort of stigma about having technology in books, and I think, I could be completely wrong, but I do honestly think that authors didn't really want technology and like anything like that to taint books. But I think Pretty Little Liars, I personally think that was a turning point. And then you've got oh, what's it called now? Good Girls Guide to Murder. That as well has this sort of text, and it's the typographic experimentation, because she's got the text and the letters. I think stuff like that, like authors should play on in a sort of age where technology is taking over. You want more people to be reading. I don't think it's a terrible thing if you have to include sort of like technology and social media, like websites, to include that in your books to bring in a bigger audience, especially like a younger audience. So for young adults and things, I don't think it's a terrible thing to have to use it, because you know the young adults now, they've grown up with so much like media surrounding them, and I know that there's a lot of like bad arguments for that. I'm on board for most of them, to be honest, but I also think if a way to get people to read more is to include something that they know and understand, I don't really get how anyone can lose from that scenario, because reading is such like, it's such a joy to be able to put a book down and just get lost in words, to get like look at paper and see something, but also it's just a fun thing for people to do. I think it stops them, you know, unless you have like a Kindle, it's still technically a screen, but it does stop people from staring at a screen, but it helps broaden vocabulary, everything like that. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have to use like current life in a book to try and engage readers. That went off on a tangent. Abby Jimenez, well, she brings out a lot in me, okay? She's brought out my philosophical side. But no, all the books I've read this month, I've thoroughly enjoyed, within reason. Like, I've enjoyed most parts of them. The only one that did really disappoint me was the Au Pair Affair. And I know it's kind of unfair because 2 out of 5 have been rereads, but rereads sometimes can be dangerous. You don't know if, you know, you were seeing it through rose-tinted lenses. I personally don't think I was. I loved them. And Daisy Jones and the Six, amazing. I do love Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I've said that time and time again. I'll keep saying that. And Abby Jimenez, she's up there now with Emily Henry and Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I'm happy with my August roundup. So if you guys have read any of these, I would really like to know. If I've inspired you to read any of these, please also let me know, and let's talk about it. I need to talk to someone about these books, because right now I'm just yapping people's ear off who've never read them, so they're probably fed up. I've probably spoiled so many books for so many people. Sorry. But I think I've done really good. I'm really happy with what I've read in August, because it was meant to be a busier month than it turned out to be. It did end up quite quiet, but I'm really happy with my little 5 books. So I'm hoping to sort of keep that up from now on, but I'm not going to disappoint myself if that doesn't happen. I'm also going to try and read my Kindle more, because I love the convenience of it. I felt like people are right, you do definitely read quicker on a Kindle, but also I was able to read it, like I read it at the bus stop. I feel like a bit of like an idiot pulling out a full-on paper book at the bus stop, but the Kindle, that was easy. And it was like, I didn't even need to put it back in my bag to get on. So it was really convenient. I loved it. But I think I'm going to try working on the tabbing again. Maybe have a little bit more, right? I mean, you can see that at My Killer Vacation, I did learn to move them further in so they don't stick out quite as much as the other ones. So it looks a little bit neater, but maybe try and have like a organisation behind it. Like you see people do one colour for one thing, one colour for the other. I would like to say I want to try that, but to be honest, I just don't think I'd stick to it. I am organised, but something like that, especially because I read when I travel to and from work, I just don't think it would work out great. Also, I love all the stickers. I want all the little stickers to feel equal amounts of appreciation, so I'd want to use them all. But I'll see, maybe I'll realise it's better to do that. Who knows? So that is me from my August roundup. Please let me know what you read in August. I'm really keen to get some more inspo. And if you have any sort of fall recommendations, please let me know, because again, I'm really keen to have those recommendations, okay? I hope everyone has a good weekend and enjoyed their August, you know, not technically, but kind of the last month of summer. In the UK, I think the last weekend of summer is the last weekend in October, so it's really late actually. But yeah, if anyone has like fall book recommendations, tell me. And again, I hope you had a really good August, last month of summer. But bye!